Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Carlo at 4GQ TV, and we have a very special show to announce. It's the MCU Aftershow. I should add an echo to that. That's where we talk about the Marvel Universe and
Mm,
all things Marvel. What's up, guys?
what's happening? What's happening? Hey, thanks for joining us. Hey, we excited to have this show and bring our thoughts to the MCU and definitely jump in here like a superhero landing. Maximum effort.
we're not gonna be no posers either. So let's go. Let's rock. Let's rock and roll. Welcome to the show.
Well, today we are going to be talking about Black Widow, which I think was an awesome movie. So I'm very excited to talk about this movie. And there may be spoilers. So, spoiler alert to the people out there on the interwebs.
Right. So click away if you don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah. Or if you want to be spoiled, watch and tune in.
Yes. And I'll add chapter titles below after this video as well. So, I think this is a very special picture. This represents a lot of the movie, the relationship wise, is the picture of Black Widow, Natasha, on the bike with her sister, Yelena. And, I just want to say something out there. Florence, if you are watching this, you played a fantastic Yelena, and the acting was phenomenal. I believed every second of it. The sarcasm, the accent was awesome. Everything you did was awesome.
Yeah, she did play a great role in this movie. I think the introduction of her to sort of take the reins was perfectly executed in this movie. So I look forward to seeing her in the future, and also, as we go through this Black Widow discussion in the movie, how her character sort of rose to the occasion and really actually stole the show. A lot of people are saying that. I believe it also. So, how do you feel about that, PK?
I think she did a solid job. I mean, it was a good segue, right? You see, you're not really sure what's going on. You just see these assassins going after this target, and then boom, she gets snapped out of it, and you're just trying to figure out what's happening. But when Black Widow meets this assailant, as we didn't know who she was, the dynamic between them, you could see that they knew each other. It started out like, what are we going to act like adults here? Are we going to talk like adults? And it's so that there's some history there, and it's not just history, is an actual connection, and not really telling the audience, but kind of letting you pick up the pieces as you go along. And so the dialect alone, and I guess the first action scene between them uh, allowed you to see there's a deeper connection than what it was. So yeah, solid job. I thought it was dope. I think she did a great job.
Yeah. When I was watching it, when you go back to when they were kids, right? Um, she really wanted that family sort of dynamic, right? And she didn't want to leave. And neither did Natasha, right? Natasha's like, I don't want to go back. Natasha already sort of probably knew more that it was fake and not real than the other little one. And it sort of played out like that too. Natasha having to sort of grow up fast and be the older sister for this young girl who was probably kidnapped or dropped off at an orphanage or something. Who knows how they were getting their hands on all these young girls for their Black Widow program. But I like how Marvel Studios sort of demonstrated that, and how did you say message, right? Because that stuff is prevalent in the world today, and they just sort of highlighted that going forward. So yeah, that family dynamic and the way that they played it out, it's the airplane chase, and when they landed, it was like, get away from her, don't touch her, sort of thing, right? So
And what you're saying there, not to cut you off, but you pointed at something else. It's like even Natasha yearned for a family. She just didn't want to admit it. Mm-hmm. But you hear her say, I went to get my own family, referring to the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
And then the dialogue between her and Red Guardians, like where they at now? And it's like she's feeling some type of way because she's torn because her family had a fallout. We all have that kind of thing going, right? Our families, everyone has that kind of situation where there's a bump in the road. But I think in as looking in the mirror between her and her, I call her sister, they both wanted the same thing. And it's funny how this thing put them together. I don't think she knew she would get to Natasha by sending that package over to the safe house. However, the way it played out was pretty dope. It was kind of like convenient for that to happen.
Yeah.
Because she could have been still running with the Avengers, or who knows, could have been siding with Tony at that point. But
Yeah.
that was a good one.
I think that, the way that they played this out, the way that they played the family dynamic and the relationship between the two sisters was phenomenal. Because it was really believable, especially there's certain parts in the movie where in the beginning, like you see like the all-American a baseball game or football game passing the stadium, and you heard the song playing on the radio, and it just felt like this all-American kind of Midwestern vibe to me. And then they get, into the back to their area, and they just got to get on a plane and go. And you kind of really, I mean, it's like nonstop action from that point. Like, I really feel like that this movie was just nonstop action. It just jumps from action to sequence, and it was great with a few comic book like jokes in between. It just, what really stole the show for me though was Yelena, how she was so Red Room kind of like trained and programmed, and then boom, it breaks with that, that
Sure.
neurological agent that was smashed
Mhm.
on the ground, and then all of a sudden all this comes back to her, and she's just whoa. Throughout the movie you can see the dynamics between the two, where Yelena kind of wanted like a real family and wanted everybody to be real family, but was hurt because it was a fake program, like it was a fake family. And Natasha, like PK alluded to, went off on her own to find the Avengers and do something with herself.
Yeah. Well, the others didn't have a choice, right? Natasha was the first, one of the first to get through, so she wasn't exposed to the neurological agent that they had. So,
I mean, I think her family started with Nick Fury, right? Because that was the most loyal person to Black Widow until Shield was dismantled, right?
he
That,
gave her the
that
chance, right?
yeah,
And they
that
touched on what happened in Budapest and all that stuff. How she was able to sort of start wiping out the red in her ledger, right? The old Loki scene, right? In Avengers movie. So, yeah.
I do also want to point out there was a couple of little things that they talked about, like at the kind of towards the end where she met the big bad and he had not hormones but pheromones, right? So she couldn't attack him or not. I
Oh,
feel like that's a
Draco?
yeah, I feel like that's a callback to like was it the Purple Man or whatnot from Jessica Jones,
Mm.
where his pheromones makes him control anybody that's around him. Or
Mm.
even Spider Woman, I think, has a similar uh thing where she has like a pheromone to attract men and make men dislike women or something of that nature. But I think those is kind of like a callback to those kind of characters that has this kind of ability to not
Yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of control that kind of situation. So there's a couple little things that pointed out in there I thought was
Kind
pretty
of like
cool.
brings it all into the Marvel universe in a way. Like, there's different things for different characters, and it kind of like ties in, and I think that's what they're doing with the movies very well. They're tying all the loose ends in together, and they're making characters appear more that haven't appeared. But one thing I really want to get into is that airplane chase. I thought that airplane chase was phenomenal. That I mean, the special effects, whoever the stunt actors were, I mean, great job to you guys. The vehicles flipping, I couldn't imagine what that was like, but that it was just boom, just like action right out the gate. And I was shocked that I was watching a Marvel movie. It could have been like any movie that wasn't Marvel. I thought maybe for a second I was watching like Narcos or something, because that scene was just like a big shootout, a lot of Shield agents coming at them,
Right.
and in some ways just so
I think I think it's more, it's real, right? You felt that realness to it, right? Because like you go back to Captain America, the second Captain America, Winter Soldier movie, that espionage sort of feel where it's more grounded in realism, right? They're not in space and stuff like that, and no one really has. They all, I mean, there's a few people with superpowers, but it's sort of realness superpowers. They can be hurt, can be kicked, they can, take blasts and all that stuff, so you can sort of feel that realness. That's sort of how I felt when they were on that plane and he was sniping and chucks and flipping and all that stuff. It was great. I like that scene too. You hit it right on the hammer on the nail with that one. So
Yeah, I didn't even. You know what? When I seen it, I didn't even know what I was watching. I was like, "What is this? Is this dude just flipped the tractor trailer and then just hop on the? What is going on here? Did I
yes,
what? I
that
didn't know
trailer
what.
flip got me. Yeah.
right.
I didn't know what I was looking at. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" But
The first
yeah,
thing you think, right, was super serum, right?
Yeah,
well,
something
I
like
mean,
that,
I
definitely.
didn't know what to think, honestly. I mean, because I never seen these characters before, right? So it's like, what am I looking at here?
Yeah.
I was so puzzled, and but like you said, it was a good set piece. It was pretty good put together, and it didn't last very long. It was pretty quick, so it didn't feel like it was drawn out. It got to the point and helped you understand the segue into the flow of the movie,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which
Which
they
led
always reminded you with, right?
which led you to the ultimate sort of surprise where they're like, all right, the mother shot, well, the mother that we thought was shot, and they carry her away. And it's sort of everything changed when the guard pushed down, Natasha pushed her away, right? That's sort of when the temperature of the family dynamics sort of, I was like, oh, something's about to happen that's not going to be too good. And, the little girl's crying and it's just sort of like she's bleeding out. The other guy is talking about becoming, can I get back? I want to get back in it. I'm ready. He wants to, he handed him the disc and stuff. And, it's just sort of like, I was like, what is going on here? So, yeah, the tone definitely changed there, right?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that I was really surprised about is how, even though Melena, the mother, the lady who played the mother of the girls, fictitious mother, of course, in the movie, was
Right.
shot, and then the girls were able to take control of the plane and get it to where it needed to go. That kind of
Mhm.
like amazed me that these girls were that adept to flight controls right off the bat. So that was one part that I thought maybe was a little bit unrealistic, but it is comic book like. And then
Mhm.
when they finally do land, it's the ultimate betrayal right there. It's like they get off. You see David Harbour as finally, like, where he announces a little bit that he's the Red Guardian, and then the girls are just knocked out after Natasha takes the gun and tries to,
Mhm.
basically scare off the soldiers. But David Harbour plays that role, the Red Guardian, the father-like figure. He comes up to them and he's like, "Put the gun down," and then boom. I mean, lights out for the girls, and they're just taken into this
On.
program.
Right.
Um, and one thing that I want to say is that I feel like, you know, that Marvel Studios maybe made a point to show that there is kidnappings like this, and the containers and the trafficking of all these future Black Widow girls. I thought, I mean, that was eerily familiar to some of the news stories we hear realistically, but
Mhm.
they did it in the comic verse for a Soviet training program. So I thought that was interesting how they kind of did make it feel like it could kind of happen in a sense. And that was a little bit shocking for me. I will say that I didn't think the program worked like that initially for Red Room, but it was really interesting. It really kind of opened up my eyes there for a few moments.
Yeah, yeah. I think they set the tone for human trafficking, kidnapping girls and bringing them in. And, they played the music and it was sort of they were all crying. Some of them had stuffed animals. They were confused and shocked. They were all ushered into that. What was it? Was it a truck? Or something like that. They were all ushered in there and they all got out and they're all sort of just not knowing. You just see lights and people grabbing them and you're over here and you're over there. They're not used to any of that stuff, right? So it's sort of, yeah, it was pretty intense, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just gonna say this. It also showed that there is a whole lot of secret organizations going in the background, right?
Yeah.
I mean, coming from Winter Soldier was a big flip. Then you have Sword, not Shield, but Sword, and then you got the people who run the Red Room. You got so many different secret organizations going on doing things, right? So I think it's kind of, at least I'm hoping so, that it's kind of world building because there is a lot of secret organizations in the MCU or Marvel Universe. So hopefully that's establishing this now.
Secret Wars.
So yeah, I'm hopeful. Like they're building all this secrecy that's going on into some major event in the future for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did introduce a different version of Taskmaster Protocol, which is the next photo credit I have here, thanks to Marvel Studios. And I thought this character was very interesting because it shocked me at first because I'm more into the comic side of things, right? I love the Marvel Studios and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's fantastic. But I'm thinking, my mind goes straight to the comic books, and I'm thinking like, whoa, Taskmaster is now a girl, the daughter of this evil kind of genius guy, and it shocked me at first. Paris,
Yeah.
blown away.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe was shocked. Maybe not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It was just more of like, okay, so we just released all these video games, and Taskmaster is masters. You got the cartoons, animation shows, and it's him with the sword and stuff like that. So the flip in the movie was very interesting, to say the least. But I am one of the people, I don't know if I'm one of the few or or one of the many that is still hopeful, because they really didn't call her Taskmaster. They said bring in the Taskmaster Protocol in the movie. So you would say, okay, if Taskmaster is a protocol, then there has to be a creator of this protocol. Is it Dreykov? And it's straight up just that's who Taskmaster is, was just her, the daughter, which would be, it's perfectly fine, but because she's still alive. But I am of the mind that's thinking that she was trained to be a Taskmaster using a protocol that was created by the original Taskmaster to help save his daughter, by armoring her up and training her and all the other things that they were using her for in the past that we don't really get to see, but that they sort of brought to light in this movie. So who knows what happens to her in the next sort of future of the movies, but I am of the mind that hopefully we get the real Taskmaster. Hopefully Marvel Studios, that would be awesome if he showed up somewhere and he has like an army of Taskmasters using his protocol. That would be awesome, right? And then other people need to do something to stop him. So
yeah, I generally, for me, when I first seen the character, I felt like the character was very menacing. just the design of the gear and whatnot. Not really shocked that it was revealed that she was a woman, but more or less it felt like this can't be Taskmaster, right? Because this is a doll, basically someone under someone else's control.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Taskmaster is not associated as anybody's villain, like Captain America has, Red Skull, or, Iron Man has the man. Well, that's another thing, right? So
He has a
the
bunch of
Mandarin, the Mandarin that we thought was going to be in Iron Man 3 wasn't the Mandarin. So it's kind of like that kind of situation. Like, wait a minute,
right.
is kind of a bait and switch kind of thing. But the letdown was, I would say, my disappointment has nothing to do with the fact that she was a woman or whatnot. It was more like, Tony Masters was this guy that trained. He worked for Sheild at some point, but when he got the super soldier serum, it made him have amnesia, so he forgot all that stuff. But what he couldn't forget, he had short time memory, but long time memory loss. So all he did was copy everyone's movements. So he trained all the bad guys. They hired him as a mercenary to go train their peoples to be like him.
Right.
So I like what your segue is, because that will be a great way to introduce Tony Masters if they're going to bring him in and say, hey, that's just my protocol to train other soldiers to be more like me.
Yeah.
But he's not a small character either, right? I mean, every time you see something, he is either hired to go take care of some rare like if he gets hired to do something, it's got to be serious, because his fee is too expensive. Either it's training or to go and take out a target or something of that nature. But the point is, this dude fought everybody from Spider-Man to Moon Knight, and Moon Knight don't feel pain. And this is what I'm saying. Like, this guy, with this character in this movie, was silent. Tony Masters is kind of like a Spider-Man, where he just runs his mouth as he's fighting. He's sarcastic. He has these little quims, and it's so shocking to have this silent character. So it's not that, it has nothing to do with that. It's more or less like, this seems like a hollow version of the Taskmaster we know. And I am also hopeful of your point. I like that you thought that out, that it could be just a foreshadow of him in the background creating these training modules for people's soldiers, right?
Yeah, it totally fits that, right? Because if you go back to if you go back to your point you made of him training soldiers and stuff, he actually opened up a front for the criminally insane hospital, where he would actually train criminals there, right?
Right.
So, and it was a front because he said, hey, this is just for criminally insane, and people would get sentenced there. He would be back there training them up on how to fight using his protocol. So yeah, it sort of works with the Red Room, right? They were probably learning stuff from whatever he created, because they didn't touch on how the Black Widows became trained. There wasn't really showing anybody, one person out there sort of training them. They were in this, what is that box where Yelena was walking by, that little room, and they all had their guns and they were all doing moves at the same time. Like, they were like being controlled to train like this.
And that fits the theme of the movie, because they were using control chips, right? Just like the little pig, it was an example or whatnot. It fits the movie. So I like your theory. I'm hopeful for that, because that will probably be the only disappointing thing. I won't say the only. I would say, outside of that, my other disappointing thing is Marvel still has not solved one issue. The MCU, you guys got to solve one issue, and that's the weak villains. The heroes feel OP and the villains feel weak. You guys got to build them up and make them feel like there's their threat. Outside of Thanos, I mean, come on, it feels like they just got too much of an advantage here.
They're extendable.
Yeah, so Outside of those two, I think that overall I was pretty happy with the movie and solid how it flowed and everything. I don't want to bash it because of the Taskmaster. I just feel like something is off here, right? Because he's not a doll, like a motionless, silent character, right? He talks too much, if anything. But I'm hoping that they do bring the real guy and then make this Taskmaster Protocol a big issue, kind of like I will say, kind of like how Clone Wars became an issue, right? Or something like that, or even some of the big Marvel events. You mentioned Secret Wars, but you get what I'm saying, right? Something is going on that's going to build up to that, and maybe this is a shout out. I'll say, don't. The third thing I would say I was disappointed is I wish this movie came out right after Cap 3. I wish it did. This would have been so amazing in the theaters right off the heels of Cap 3,
Oh
right
yes.
before Infinity War. That would have been the moment, right? And I'm not saying it's not a moment now. I'm just saying for the hype train and how large it was, this story would have been so huge at that point in time.
Yeah.
Um, and overall, it's still a solid movie. Still not disappointed. I'm glad they still brought it to reality and gave us a whole bunch of nuggets, a whole bunch of tie-ins. And whether you missed it or didn't see it, you can always go back and watch it. But there is definitely foundation building in this movie, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Paris. That is a very good theory. I didn't think about that. That's why I'm so impressed. Like, yo, you just hit something on the ball there.
Now, I have a theory that's going to turn everybody's heads around. Okay? So, I mean, this is just a far out theory. I mean, I could be wrong, right? But we've seen time divergence already in the Marvel Universe. And I'm thinking, I go back to the scene at the dinner table where Melena is talking. And Melena says, "Oh, those weren't when we infiltrated the scientist or whatever, the Shield scientist." And then she says they weren't Shield scientists, they were Hydra scientists, right?
Mm.
So now we already know that Hydra's mentioned here, okay? We have a female Taskmaster, right? And I'm sorry for bringing this up now because we're going to talk about it later anyway. But when what's his name? The villain's name, Dragoff. Is that his
Dracoff.
name? Dracoff.
Dracoff. Yep.
He blows up in the plane, right? Could
Oh,
he?
when it crashes to the ground, or
Yeah, like you see the plane in flames after
yeah.
Melena takes or not Melena, Yelena takes the stick and shoves it in the engine.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of thinking, well, Hydra was mentioned earlier. The Soviets could have been working with Hydra, right? So could Marvel make this a divergence in the timeline and Dragoff becomes the next Red Skull? Because his face
Oh,
gets all burnt up?
you mean for a variant or something, or the how the timelines are going to change? Yeah, I could see that, but the only problem with it is that Black Widow was way before all the stuff that we have going on now, right? Like the
Right.
timeline base.
It wouldn't fit is what it is because there would be a time skip because of the snap, right? So things would
Yeah,
have changed and other things would have came to light, I would think.
right. Because if that was the case, then you would have to go back. So because remember, Red Skull was now the person that was watching
Right.
over the stone, right? So the Soul
Mm-hmm.
Stone. So Red, I guess you could. It's a far fetched theory, but you never know. There's Marvel Studios. You
Wait,
never
the red?
know.
Did you say the Redstone? Because wasn't that guy's ring a
No, no,
Redstone?
Red Skull
no.
was
Red
over the
Skull.
soul stone. He was the
Okay.
guardian over there.
Yeah, he was the guardian of the Red. Remember,
Well,
he got
I
sucked
won't
through the
even
Tesseracts, and
I
they
wouldn't even
put him.
say guardian. He was just man, he was stuck there to be honest
He was
with
stuck
you.
there. People would come to try to get the Soul Stone, but they would never get it because
Right.
the two people that showed up didn't love each other, or one person showed up and it was by themselves and didn't know what to do, so they left. So yeah,
Which means he could come back because he's not technically dead. And
yeah, if we could dive into all that stuff. Infinity War can, those movies, there's so much to talk about with those.
But that also means that Black Widow has a chance to come back.
Right. Yeah. Natasha.
Wow.
There's a whole bunch
See,
of
I'm
things.
already bringing up theories, and now everybody's
Because
thinking. So
well,
if
Go
you're
ahead.
watching this in the comments, leave your theories too, because I want to read them. Okay, I want to read your theories, because when we go back to talk about these other movies, I want to talk about your theories in the comments. So feel free to drop them, whether it's on Facebook comments or whether it's on YouTube comments. I would love to. I'd love to talk about some of that stuff later on.
We want to hear the theories because everybody has them. And, I don't think I don't know. People have been right before. It's been like so far fetched, right? But we love to hear them. So
It's good
awesome.
speculations.
Yeah.
Good speculations.
Well,
Yeah. So
I was gonna say I wanted to talk about. I brought up the Red Guardian. As we were talking about Soviets and Melena, I really feel like that David Harbour did a great job as the Red Guardian. He played a fantastic kind of guy who, you could see that he kind of loved the girls, in the beginning. You could kind of see that. But then he had obligations to this program that he put as a priority. And you saw humanity in David Harbour as the Red Guardian. You kind of saw humanity, and it's kind of what made this movie had funny moments and humorous moments. One part that I want to bring up, particularly that really sticks out to me, is where he is in the house standing up when they're getting raided by the Red Room, and he's just standing there, and he gets shot with like a knockout dart. And it's like, oh, this is nothing. He pulls it out, and then boom, 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 and he just gets knocked out.
yeah. He was a great character in this film. Red Guardian didn't have that much of a past in the comics, so it was interesting to see them use him in this movie. It made sense. They tied it together. Somehow he has, he got the super soldier serum and was around. He even said, like when he was in the jail scene, he even said that he fought Captain America a long time ago, right? Before he broke the guy's wrist. Because he was like, "You're a liar." It was like, "What?" And he. One thing about him when he was playing the father figure, I think that's when he loved the girls. Like when he actually had a sense of sort of fatherhood. But then on the flip side, it's sort of like it became all about him, right? Like he was like, "I want back in." He didn't even care. He went and disarmed the girls and he gave them a pep speech, but they were away for years, 20 plus years gone, and he didn't even try to sort of reach out and help them. I know he was in prison, in a Russian prison, and but he didn't do anything. It seems
I think he felt like that they were good because he was aware that Natasha was with the Avengers, and he was also aware that Yelena was alive. So I think he just felt comfort in knowing that they were grown and good,
right.
and maybe in his own way.
You brought up something, Paris, that I think is also important for conspiracy theorists out there in the Marvel Universe. You said when he broke the guy's wrist, remember the guy fact-checked him and told him that it was impossible for him to have fought on Captain America because of being frozen or whatnot? And the Red Guardian, David Harbour, got really angry over that. So there could have been some type of divergence. Okay, I'm done with that now. We can continue our discussion.
Yeah, he was frozen, but that sort of brings back, was it Cap that he fought? Was it that Captain America? Does it go into Falcon and Winter Soldier when Isaiah Bradley was Captain America, put out to do only special missions before they locked him up, right? It seems like all the old super soldiers back then got all locked up. So who knows?
So in what you're saying is he might have fought a Captain America or what he thought to be a Captain America. Because when's the last time he's seen a TV? When's the last time he's actually seen what Captain America looked like?
Yeah, and it could have been dark. They were always fighting at night, so in snow in the dark. You know, he probably fought somebody he thought was Cap, saw a shield, and was like, "Oh, this is Captain America. I got to win this fight." Probably didn't win it, and and got thrown in a Russian slammer because
So
he
you put
lost.
your
Right?
money on Cap all day, every day.
Yes, it seems like it doesn't matter which Cap, but yes, Carlo, you do have a nice conspiracy theory right there. Who knows?
But one thing that I thought was fantastic here, right? Well, he's in prison, and he gets the toy doll, you know, the Red Guardian. It brings back memories. You could see like humanity in him again, where he was proud of his superhero powers and the superhero he was for the Soviet Union. And what really struck me as awesome in this movie was that jailbreak scene with the helicopter and Yelena like flying the helicopter and Black Widow going down there on the rope, and Yelena makes the joke, "Oh, there she poses again." You know, because the way that Black Widow lands to fight, she makes a joke that it's a pose. So I thought the whole thing was cool. There was a lot of gunfire, there was a lot of back and forth action, a lot of talk, a lot of humor, and Yelena was sarcastic at some points. It just made the scene feel so cool. Like you know, I want to go back and just watch that scene on repeat like several times because I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was great. I like the fact that they had to hustle up because they caused an avalanche, right? And it was coming to the prison. Yeah, it was funny because they were all fighting to try to get out, and then the avalanche came. They all ran back in. So yeah, that was a great scene. That was a great scene. I like how they rescued him and brought him back, and that's sort of when the family dynamic sort of came back again, right? They all sort of are like, I'm the dad, you two are the younger sisters, and on their walk to go see Melena, right? You know, he was like, you know, old dad again, the family's back, you know, let's, how are you, you know? Natasha wasn't having it at all. Yelena sort of was having it, and, you know, she really was, as you say, PK, she wanted that family. Like, if they were to say, hey, guess what? We're going to drop everything that we're doing today, and we're going to go get Melena, and we're going to go fly to whatever island, and we're going to be a family. She would sign up for it right then and there. She wouldn't care about any other stuff that they're doing. She would like, let's go, right? Drop it all. But of course, Natasha wasn't having that. She was like, we need to stop this. But yeah, Yelena would have done that right away.
He wanted to relive whatever glory day he thought he had and try to do more to get recognition. I think it's part of it too. He was happy he had his family, but he wanted to go out and he wanted to feel just as important as his mind feels Captain America is. Because nobody mentioned how important Captain America is except for him. He's the only one that went on and on and on about him. Not even Natasha mentions him, right? Nobody mentions him but him. So it's like he's fixated on this idea of Captain America, I should say, and not really knowing. I don't know if, like I said, it's just kind of weird that these conversations come up, but it might not be Steve Rogers that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But
and
great.
I think then, you know, that's when they kind of like, after that jailbreak scene, they kind of end up at the house with Melena, and they're all talking, and Natasha doesn't really trust Melena that much, you know, because it was almost like Melena at first was kind of cold to the feeling of being a foster mother to the girls in a sense, but you saw Yelena being upset, and she's in the room with Alexi, I think is the name of the Red Guardian. I think that's his name. I hope I said it correctly. Paris, correct me if I'm wrong there. But
you're right.
He's in the room and he starts singing the song that was played in the radio on the very beginning. And you see Yelena start to break down and feel emotional again, like, hey, he is my dad, you know? And you saw it was like there was feelings there, and Yelena was just trying to block them out for so long because she was angry, and she felt hurt and she felt abandoned. And I can't blame her. I mean, technically, her and Natasha really were abandoned, but he's trying to come back in as a nice, subtle guy that I'm here to protect you now, girls, after you broke me out of jail. Like, you know, and my thoughts were like, why would they even want to break him out of jail? But they did, you know? So I thought that was kind of neat to see. And then Melena's reaction to Red Guardian, it almost seemed like that while they were together as these fake foster family, whatever you want to call it, that they kind of had like some type of relationship going, because he made comments about, dating her and whatnot, things that I probably can't go further into detail. But
Right.
you see Natasha and Yelena like, okay, stop it, guys. Just stop it. Stop it. You know?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. That whole family scene, it was really bringing them back together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Melena, she kept the photo book too, right? Remember Natasha wanted to grab it when they were leaving, and she said, "No, leave it." She must have went back sometime, and went back to that house and picked it up. You would think that Sheild would have took all that stuff, but she was able to get her hands on it and kept, unless she took it then when she was leaving the first time, but she had the whole photo album in her house. So that was an interesting tidbit there. So
A lot of messages.
a lot of messages.
Yes, I will say that it was kind of like a very dysfunctional family. It was, and I think it's another way, in a sense, of Marvel speaking about real world kind of things that go on in families that can be dysfunctional. But at the end of the day, they all formed kind of like a bond. Even though you didn't see it there, it kind of brings us to the end of the movie almost, right? Because they get up into that big space station, and you still kind of think that people, because Taskmaster Protocol had to be tricked a little bit, right? So when they get back up to that big space station radar thing up in the sky where Dragoff is hanging out, with his ring and his Black Widow program, it was just kind of interesting, the technology, because I don't remember any face changing technology, but Dragoff picked up on that. Did you guys
They had it in Cap 2. You remember when she came up and she was pretending to be the director, and then so she been doing that for a minute. So, and he knows their tactics. That's the thing, because he's the commander in chief. He knows what they do to get in. So, the same bracelet she wears, her little stingers, and all that stuff, everything that she has, this is how he knows.
He's been, and plus he's been under the radar. He didn't want to get the Avengers' attention, because if he would have got the Avengers' attention, they would have sent Thor.
Yeah, he did not want that smoke. He
Hulk.
knew better.
To that tower, to that floating space station. Yeah, they would have blew that thing out of the sky, right? Quick. And that wasn't Professor Hulk. That was ultimate raging fire Hulk, right? That was
not just them. I mean, Iron Man, right? You let Stark Industries know that you got tech that probably you borrowed or stole from him.
They're gonna come shut it down. Yeah, that's why he was so happy, because he thought he kidnapped, got her, and he was like, you know what I can do with an Avenger on my payroll, like she would be able to give him so much access to stuff that he would never have access before. So that's why he didn't try to kill her. He was using her to put her underneath the protocol to gain more access and more power and control.
Yeah, it was kind of neat how she held her tongue for so long in that scene, because you would imagine her in that position would have wanted to break that neuro connection immediately for the pheromones and just attack him, but she held her patience for the right moment. She waited, till he thought that she was harmless. It was basically kind of like a trick. And I think that's a fantastic point in that, is that she will go through any length to complete a mission and save people. And that really speaks to the character of Black Widow.
We've seen her in that position many times. When Carlson called her up and say, "I need you. I'm working," right? She was in the middle of interrogation, but she was tied up. Yet they thought she was locked in a room with them. No, you was locked in a room with her, and that's just what it was really about.
Yeah, and they shot a missile. Right. Yeah, she's the ultimate sort of hero, cleaning up her past. She sacrificed herself in Endgame, so it's sort of the ending of this movie was the closeout to Natasha Romanoff's story, which Scarlett Johansson did an excellent job as Black Widow. If they bring her back, that'd be cool, but I'm probably thinking that it's over unless there's something that they need to do to bring her back, which could happen. And if they bring her back, they're bringing back Iron Man and all the other stuff. So we'll see how it all works out. Right now, as far as what you see, the roadmap for the next couple of movies, you don't see that potentially happening. So which I'm perfectly fine with. I think that she did a great job. They passed the torch to Yelena, and we could talk about sort of Natasha escaping and saying that she needs to break her friends out of prison, and she goes on her way to do that whole thing for before Endgame. Before Infinity War, and then Yelena's she's taken over. I think she will be introduced as a new Black Widow. Now, what type of Black Widow, it remains to be seen, because our favorite character has showed back up again at the end of the end credits, Val, she was a former Hydra lieutenant or something like that. Sorry if don't crush me on interwebs, because I know she was a huge up in Hydra. And she shows back up again. She showed up at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier to recruit this agent as one of her minions now, and now she's getting Yelena to go hunt Barton, Hawkeye, which will be showing in that new Hawkeye series that'll be coming up at the end of this year. So look forward to that. So yeah, we'll see how that all works out. I'm very excited, but to see Natasha sort of close the book on her character, to see that happen, I'm good with it. I'm at peace with the whole way that they did this.
Right. I think it was dope. Definitely a way to send off this character, and she got her arc, is kind of what everybody wanted, and here we are. So we've seen kind of what she'd been through, and where was she at where her mindset was when Infinity War started. So that's a good thing. We with her arc, it also shows, like you said, a passing of the torch. Now, not knowing what Yelena was doing all this time between Infinity War and Endgame or whatnot, I guess we can catch up and see what's going on as time moves forward.
Right. Well, she evidently was working for her, because she said my rates go up, right? So she was working for her. I don't know. Who knows if she got snapped or not, right? I don't know. They're gonna have to explain that.
Well, it seems like Val is definitely forming her own quote unquote team.
So is he, Hydra again? You know what I'm saying here? I'm thinking more conspiracy theories, but I won't get into it right now. I'll let the comments and whoever listens to this get into some, and we could debate back and forth, because it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So, everybody, Paris, you got final ratings for the movie?
Yeah. I think I am going to go with a 4 out of 5 stars for Black Widow. I've seen it in the movie theaters, and I've also seen it on Disney Plus, just to get that also at home experience. And it was great on both. Like, if you're watching the movies, watching on Disney Plus in your house, either on a flat screen TV or even on your computer. I think the movie Probably would have did a little bit better. I just think the Taskmaster thing sort of played with me a little bit and sort of had me drop the score. But I like the overall arc of the movie, the closeout, the send off. Oh, there's one other thing also. Um, I think I don't know if Black Widow got injected with some super soldier serum, but she got hit with a rocket and that car flipped. She should have been she should have been hurt really bad. And then she gets into a fight with her sister and was able to hold her own in that. And then during the chase scene and the whole and jumping from building to building, she falls down and she hits those pipes or stairs and all that stuff, and then she lands on her feet, and the other Widow character falls also and lands on her back and dies. So I'm like, oh, okay, so when did Black Widow Natasha get super sort of serum power, right? So I don't know. It just sort of, those are the only other two scenes, but that's why I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5.
Okay. PK, aka Dion.
I would say I give it. I'll give it a 4. Out of 5. It was a solid movie overall, right? Again, kind of like Paris mentioned, the whole use of Taskmaster. I felt like they could have named that character anything and it'd have been just fine. But using Taskmaster or maybe alluding to this is Taskmaster and knowing that this is a bigger character than what was shown in the movie feels a little down and disappointing. Again, like I mentioned before, the MCU's biggest problem is the weak villains problem. They need to solve that to make us feel like the heroes are in danger at some point, because it feels like the heroes are OP. So, but overall, the story and everything and how the pacing in the movie and the ending definitely was very solid, I think. Very good.
Okay. I may shock you guys a little bit. I'm going to go with 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I liked the fact that it felt like, to me, a really good Marvel movie in a long time, because it was action sequence after action sequence, and that's what I like about comic books. It's like action, 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 action. And this movie gave me all the action that I really wanted from the film. So I thought that was fantastic. And they did a great job with passing the torch over to Yelena as whatever, she's going to be the next Black Widow, but she's going to be somebody important in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We know that for a fact. Just the way that her character was portrayed on screen and was always there as like a really big supporting character. I thought that was a great job. Also, I was very happy to see a character being utilized that was only mentioned in the comics like 4 or 5 times, Red Guardian. So I didn't even know he existed, and it was great to learn. And for them to put a character in a movie like this, whenever they do these kind of things, it's almost like saying, hey, we're going to bring this around a little bit more often now and make you recognize this character. So I just hope, though, that they don't change the character from David Harbour. I hope to keep David Harbour as a character, because now he is the face of the Red Guardian for me. And I also think this movie did have some divergence on the timeline as well. And while I was watching it, I picked up on all these little things. So for me, it was just really exciting in my head to like be thinking, oh, wow, where could this be on a Divergence timeline? Where could this be? And I just thought there was a lot of great things about this film. I think they did a great job of describing the Red Room program and how it's done and how the girls are like basically kidnapped and reprogrammed. They showed that with the pig in the movie as well. I thought that was a fantastic scene. And I just think that the overall dialogue, the acting, I think it was all there this time. I think every character I saw on screen, I really enjoyed them acting in that role. The only thing that was a little disappointing to see was Taskmaster Protocol, because that I did not recognize from the comic books. But in my mind, I'm already thinking Divergence timeline, so I gave it a pass. So Marvel Studios, if you watch this, if you listen to this, Taskmaster Protocol, Divergence timeline, please, please, please. But overall, I mean,
at least Taskmaster Protocol, right?
yeah,
At least.
yes. But overall, I mean, Scarlett Johansson, David Harbour, Florence Pugh. I hope I said your last name correctly. I think all did great jobs. I don't know who played Melena, but she also did a great job. She played cold and warm as a character. I think that the special effects were spot on for this kind of movie. I enjoyed it. It felt like these things could really actually happen with these kind of characters. So it didn't really feel far fetched out there like some movies would, and that brought more of that artistic style into the movie for me. So, yeah, definitely, man. That's how I feel. 5 out of 5. I would recommend buying this on Disney Plus. I would recommend going out to the movies to see this. However you like to experience your movies.
However you want to experience it, right?
Yeah. However you want to experience it, I would say go ahead and do it, and I support this film, man, because they did a phenomenal job on this.
It was Rachel Weisz who played Melena.
Okay, yeah, she did. I mean, her role was fantastic too. Everybody's, even the bad guy, Dragoff, spot on. Like it was just everybody was spot on, and even though we didn't like Taskmaster Protocol, as per se, as much as some of the other characters, you gotta admit the character was really menacing, and it really felt like a bad guy. The character really felt like a supervillain, with super special skills. So I mean, Marvel hit that nail on the head too. It was a little bit of a surprise. That's all. But other than that, man, I mean, 5 out of 5, guys, for me.
All right. That will be the show then, right? Are we good to go? Anybody else got anything else?
No, man. I would just say thanks for watching. Thanks for coming out. It was great to put this together, to entertain you guys, have a conversation, give you guys our thoughts, our impressions, and definitely what it make us feel to do this. This is awesome. Be able to put this together for everyone.
Yeah, please like and subscribe, share with your friends, share on Facebook, share on Reddit in the Marvel groups if you're part of them, because we can't post it ourselves all the time, on Reddit. That's the rules. But Twitter, Tumblr, everywhere else, feel free to share this, debate with us, contact us, leave comments below. We love interacting with anybody that watches our videos, and we love Marvel, we love comics, we love all this stuff, man. So hit us up, talk to us, and until next time, see you guys later.